Boom. Does the
Boom.
countdown even matter?
No.
No, it doesn't. The time that we go live doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
We're just doing it. It's actually 4:25 right now.
We're extra early today.
Extremely early. So we left off last episode in part 9 from Numbers 16, and we kind of just read about the rebellion between the sons of Levi, so to speak. Some people literally just got swallowed up by the earth, and they were just trying the office that God had appointed Moses and Aaron to. And so, because of that, that led them to be prideful and stand against them. And ultimately, God took care of that in an extreme way. And so, we're going to pick up in Numbers 17. Uh, it's not really much more to talk about. We had our Bible study yesterday. So, if you haven't watched that, it's up on YouTube and Facebook. But it's on Facebook under the wrong name because, people learning how to use the software. So I don't know if I can go and change it on Facebook, but I'll tell you, go to YouTube and watch that. You can click at any random point in that video and it'll bless you. But we're here again from Genesis to Revelation, and we're almost done with the first 5 books of the Bible. They really the bulk of the Bible is the Old Testament, and when you get past that, it's really a breeze. Reading it though, not reading it for understanding, but if you're just reading it to read it, the Old Testament takes the longest, and the New Testament is fairly smaller. But I guess let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Let's do this and this. Nope. Let's do this. There we go. So I'm Alonzo Devet. This is my wife.
Jade Devet.
Can they hear you?
Jade Devet.
I think we need to do a sound test.
Hello, hello.
Let me see.
Why do you think that they cannot?
I don't know. Go ahead and check it out. Can you go to YouTube?
Yeah.
Let's see. Bow chicka wow wow. I think we need to do a sound test. They can hear me. So I'm Alonzo Devet. This is my wife.
Jade Devet.
Can they hear you? No, we can't hear you.
Jade Devet.
So
yeah, you can.
We can barely hear you.
Did you hear the second one? I was just quiet.
Okay.
My bad.
But we're going to read, and we're starting early because we might just mess around and get all the way through the book of Numbers in this part. But if you've been, watching along with us, or even just playing this to go to sleep to because you love hearing my voice, thank you for watching. God bless you. Are we have a hater?
Just kidding.
Oh, okay. You marry me. If anybody likes hearing my voice. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I need to, searching for the anointing, really, but it's here. Got to read the word with the anointing if you're going to explain it too. So, starting off in verse 1, this is an NASB version. We are in Numbers 17. It says, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and obtain from them a staff for each father's household, 12 staffs, from all their leaders for their fathers' houses. You shall write each man's name on the staff, and write Aaron's name on the staff of Levi, for there is to be one staff for the head of each, basically of the tribes of Israel, right? So that explains the 12. And so it says, You shall then leave them in the tent of meeting in front of the testimony where I meet with you. It's talking about the Ark of the Covenant. And it will become, and it will come about that the staff of the man who I chose will sprout, or choose will sprout. So I will relieve myself of the grumblings of the sons of Israel who are grumbling against you. So check this out. God is saying, hey, gather these things. We're basically about to have like a face-off, a standoff. And God's saying, I'm going to prove this once and for all so that these people can stop it with all the mumbling and complaining. And so it has something to do with the staffs and the head of each household, right? And we see for the tribe of Levi, Aaron is going to be the one that is going to stand for them. So this is God proving basically his own decision, but the people that he's placed in office in the eyes of everyone else, because there's been, you know, it started with even Aaron himself and Miriam, people trying to usurp the authority of God by basically rejecting who God has chosen. And so God is about to prove his chosen. So verse 6 says, so Moses, told them to do as God commanded. They got 12 staffs. They represented the fathers of each household. And so it says in verse 7, then Moses left the staffs before the Lord in the tent of the testimony. It says, now on the next day, Moses went into the tent of the testimony, and behold, Aaron's staff for the house of Levi had sprouted and produced buds and bloomed with blossoms, and it yielded ripe almonds. And if anybody knows anything about a staff, it's literally a stick of wood. And so God got Moses to collect staffs from each household to represent the fathers of each house. And so he was like getting Aaron's staff to represent Levi, right? And so the next day, Aaron's dead stick, I'll say it that way, a staff is a dead stick. Well, I guess a stick is dead, but nevertheless, right? But it says that it had sprouted, budded, and bloomed with blossoms, and it yielded ripe, not even just almonds, but ripe almonds. So here we have a stick that was once dead, now brought to life in the presence of the Lord. It says, and it produced, right? So Moses then brought out all the staffs from the presence of the Lord to all the sons of Israel, and they looked, and each man took his. But the Lord said to Moses, put the staff of Aaron back in front of the Ark of the Covenant to keep as a sign against the rebels. So I love that right there. Because we talk about this every time we talk about the word of the Lord. But there should be physical evidence that God has chosen you, that you stand before the Lord, that you have a place in the kingdom of God. And so when people who are rebelling against what God's chosen, they shouldn't have to wonder. They shouldn't have to guess. You shouldn't be wondering. You shouldn't be guessing either. Because God proves who he's chosen. And so if God has chosen you, as Christ has died for everybody, if you've received that gift, if you've received that call to be the elect of God, you have to understand that there's going to be something different about you that is noticeable to everyone. And life and fruitfulness should be that. Multiplication should be that outward evidence of the inward work that we have received freely from Jesus Christ. And so, I mean, look how this event in history even shows God's will there. That this is God's plan and purpose for who he has chosen. So finish in verse 10, it says, so that, because Moses was supposed to put the Aaron's staff back in the tent in front of the Ark of the Covenant. And so it says it's going to be a permanent sign to the rebels, so that you may put an end to their grumblings against me, and they do not die. And so, I mean, to even further the point that I just talked about, right? Not only is there a sign, there's outward evidence that God has chosen you, but it's miraculous. Because there's no way that a staff buds, bears or fruit, but produces almonds, right? There's no way a staff does that. But here, the power of God comes and miraculously causes this thing that was once dead to bring about life. So this right here is even proof of miracles, that the outward evidence would be signs and wonders. So verse 11, oh, wait. Did I even finish verse 10? Maybe I did. So this was to happen to put an end to the grumblings against God, and so that the people will not die. Because if you have the testimony, you have to remember, this is God. This staff proves to me every time I look at it, this was God's plan and purpose here. So there's no arguing against it anymore. You can't argue with proof, with evidence. So Moses did so just as the Lord commanded him, right? Then the sons of Israel spoke to Moses, saying, okay, behold, we are passing away. We are perishing. We are all perishing. Everyone who comes near to the tabernacle of the Lord must die. Are we to perish completely? Interesting question. It says, so the Lord said to Aaron, you, your sons, and your father's household with you shall bear the guilt in connection with the sanctuary, and you and your sons will share, well, you and your sons with you shall bear the guilt in connection with your priesthood. But also bring your brothers with you, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, so that they may join you and serve you, while you and your sons with you are before the tent of the testimony. So as it shows, right? Last episode we ended with people basically like, hey, we don't want to receive you. We don't want to receive Aaron, right? We want to basically be you guys. But God had chosen Moses and Aaron. And so this event took place in number 17 that we just read about. Why? Because God has chosen Aaron and his sons. And now because God has proven that through and through, there's no more arguing with it. Here it is, God speaking to Aaron, because I've chosen you, this is what you ought to do. So he says, bear the guilt. I should look up what guilt really means here, but I'm sure if I had to put a word to it, just thinking about it, in context, it's talking about you are now responsible for the sanctuary. You and your sons are responsible for everything connected in the priesthood with the sanctuary and the testimony, right? And so, picking back up in verse 3, it says, and they, speaking to Aaron and his household and his sons after him, right, shall perform duties for you and the duties of the whole tent. But they shall not come near the furnishing of the sanctuary and the altar, or both they and you will die. They shall join you and perform the duties of the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent. But an unauthorized person shall not come near you. So you shall perform the duties of the sanctuary and the duties of the altar, so that there will no longer be wrath on the sons of Israel. Behold, I myself have taken your fellow Levites from among the sons of Israel. They are a gift to you, dedicated to the Lord to perform the service of the tent of meetings. But you, I like that. He's literally telling a father, Aaron is the father here of the priesthood, the Levitical priesthood. He's telling him, your sons are a gift to you, right here. Children are a gift from the Lord. The verse says in the King James Version that they're an inheritance. But you get the context here, right? That's where some translations say gift. Because God's saying to Aaron, your sons after you, they are a gift to you, dedicated to God. So your children should be dedicated to the Lord, and they should perform the service of the tent of meeting. But in context of modern day, they should just serve the Lord as he's dictated. It says, but you and your sons with you shall attend to your priesthood for everything that concerns the altar and inside the veil, and you are to perform service. I am giving you the priesthood as a service. Did I read that right? I guess so. I am giving you the priesthood as a service that is a gift, and the unauthorized person who comes near shall be put to death. Now, the sons of Korah are literally gone. They all got swallowed up along with them. So I'm thinking I have to do further research. I'm sure it's not even that like difficult to find out, but I believe they're also having to take on the duties of what Korah and his sons used to do before they got swallowed up by the earth. So in verse 8, then the Lord spoke to Aaron, now behold, I myself have put you in charge of my offerings. All the holy gifts of the sons of Israel I have given to you as a portion, and to your sons as a permanent allotment. This shall be yours from the most holy gifts reserved from the fire, every offering of theirs, namely every grain offering, sin offering, guilt offering, with which they shall make restitution to me, shall be most holy for you and for your sons. So here God is now pledging them a portion of every offering, because now it's time for them to attend to service of the temple. All right, service for the sons of Israel to attend to the offerings and whatnot. So God's saying your portion will be part of my offerings. I'm giving that as a gift to you and your sons for a permanent allotment. So here we have it. Priests also feed off of the offerings given. I want to say in the temple, but on the altar right now. They don't have the temple yet. And so just read verse 9 again. It says, this shall be yours from the most holy gifts reserved from the fire, every offering which they offer to make restitution. It shall be most holy for you and your sons. As the most holy gifts you shall eat it. Every male shall eat it. It shall be holy to you. This also is yours, the offering of their gift. That is all the wave offering of the sons of Israel. I have given them to you and your sons and daughters with you as a permanent allotment. Every one of your household who is clean may eat it. All the best of the fresh oil and all of the best of the fresh wine and of the grain, the first fruits of what they give to the Lord, I have given them to you. That is pretty like honorable. So here we have it, right? Because the tribe of Levi are also symbolic of people in ministry among those who are God's chosen. There are people God's elected for ministry, a part of it, as well as being chosen, right? And so what we see here is people that God has placed to directly do the work of ministering, which is, if Jesus was still here, continuing that, right? Actively edifying, perfecting the church, and just doing the work of tending to the temple, the house of God, and to God's people. Basically, those who God's appointed to be the under shepherds, because that is what their life's duty is now. You see how God is so honorable that now their portion is a part of the best of the best. Because he's saying, I'm giving you part of the offerings to you and your house, right? But what we offer to God is the best of the best, the first fruits, our most prized possessions. And so as God has placed people to basically just like, I mean, in context here, just tend to the temple. These ministers today, these will be the fivefold ministers. Well, God's saying these people are going to eat a portion of the best that I receive, because God is supposed to receive the best. And because they've given their lives to this service, God is saying, I'm going to give you a portion of the best. So, I mean, that just spoke to me right there. Because there's a big argument now with, I don't want to help this pastor get rich or whatnot. But to be there's many things I can say about that. I just want to bring up one point that you can say is, when you really respect God, you respect people that he's placed to serve him. Now you kind of can umbrella that and be like, well, all of us are supposed to serve him. Yes, but there are people that he's directly placed first, as you know, the fivefold ministers, to literally give themselves only to that right there, ministry. And so because of that, here it is, God is saying, and I'm going to give these people part of the best that I receive. Why? Because they're supposed to give themselves totally to this cause right here. And if that's God's will on it, then why I should be happy that this person is getting a portion of what I'm giving to the Lord, because their service is literally just that. Minister the word. We'll find out more about that later as we continue to read the Bible. Praying, fasting, right? Going and actively seeking the lost. Organizing things like revivals and outreaches so that people can encounter God. There are people that God has literally placed to seek that and to do that. There's people that God has gifted with the abilities to give themselves wholly to those things. So it's not like, okay, if this doesn't work out, they have this thing to fall back on. No, God's expecting them to give themselves totally to this right here, this service. And so because of that, well, people who do that well, I will want them to be honored. God honoring them from what we all collectively give. Because that's honestly the greatest thing you can do, is be one of those people, God, that Jesus has chosen to lead his flocks in his stead, in his absence. They have the most important jobs, the apostles, prophets, evangelists, preachers, or pastors and teachers. That's the most important job. That's the highest job. And we'll read about this even later. Like even when the people get a king, you know, the king is the ruler over the land. But you see, the king's office is still lesser than the office of a prophet. Because the king still answers to the prophet. Because the prophet speaks for God. The king is leading the people, but the prophet is the one who's giving direction. And in that case, the king is still a part of the people. And so, going off of that, because we have to keep reading. I think we left off 13. It says, the first ripe fruits of all that is in their land, which they bring to the Lord, shall be yours. Every one of your household who is clean may eat it. Everything banned from everything banned from secular use in Israel shall be yours. For every firstborn of the womb of all flesh, whether human or animal, which they offer to the Lord, shall be yours. However, you must redeem the human firstborn, and the firstborn of unclean animals you shall redeem. It says, as to their redemption price, yes. Uh, Firstborn of an ox, firstborn of sheep, firstborn of goat, you shall not redeem, they are holy. You shall sprinkle their blood on the altar. Okay. However, their meat shall be yours, it shall be yours like the breast. So God's just defining their portion, their allotment in the offerings of what the people give to Him. So check this out. Verse 21 now. To the sons of Levi, behold, I have given all the tithe in Israel as an inheritance, in return for their service which they perform, the service of the tent of meeting. So again, check that out. I don't think people know this verse exists. So God is even in a, it speaks for itself. And the sons of Israel shall not come near the tent of meeting again, or they will bring sin on themselves and die. Only the Levites shall perform the service of the tent of meeting, and they shall bear their own guilt. It shall be a permanent statute throughout your generations, and among the sons of Israel they shall have no inheritance. Okay, going back to verse 21. So we even see here, when it comes to the tithe, well, God has a portion of the tithe that goes to the sons of Levi. And so people will say, I don't want to give to a church, I don't want to give to the pastor. Because in modern day, right, the person that is doing the service of the tent of meeting, the service of the church, those that are set in place to serve the house of the Lord, the body of Christ. Well, God's saying a part of their portion is the tithe. And I mean, there are other verses that prove this as well, that talk about this as well, but I'll let us get to that when we get to it. But I mean, just bring this up. What we should learn from that is when we have the heart of a giver, you have to understand that when I tithe to the house of God, well, the people that are doing this service of this house, right, of the tent, are the ones that have an inheritance for this tithe of mine. So you can't tithe to the poor. That's just giving alms. Alms is charitable giving. So giving to the poor is not tithing, because tithing is literally a tenth. So you can't skate your way out of that. But if you want to learn more, just go and look at my videos on why we still tithe today on YouTube.
That's crazy because I was like loud. Earlier, I was reading Jonathan's book, the blue one, and literally the section I read, which is like probably 4 pages, explains everything we just read right now.
Glory
Everything.
to
God. About first fruits.
Is it 31?
Huh?
Is it the 31 keys to the financial anointing?
Something about financial anointing. I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay, well, keep going though.
But it talked about the first fruits. It talked about honoring like men of God. So like, yeah, give to your church, but also give to like ministers. And then what did you just say right now?
About what?
Anyways, everything we just read, it was so weird. I read exactly that in a tiny little portion. I haven't read that book in a while.
Do you have anything else to say though?
No, I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
That's like crazy how that works.
But you got to tell them the book though.
What was it? I know it's called like financial anointing. Is it just financial anointing?
No. It is. The book is called
Right there. Financial Overflow.
Financial Overflow, 10 Biblical Principles to Unlock Heaven's Reward. Can't zoom in. But here, hold on. It's on Amazon.
Those books are really good.
Heaven's Unending Supply. Let me see if I can share that. 1 second.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what it was. It was also talking about how you can't just like give to the poor for your tithe, because what are they gonna do with the money? It's not gonna, glorify the Lord and how the church would.
Amen.
But yes, give to the poor. Like, you're going to get a return on whatever you give to the poor because the Lord even calls you to do that.
Amen. And
Yeah.
the thing about that too, we'll get to the in chapter 23. We're definitely going to get there. But well, when we obey the Lord, we've read this time and time again. God says, "I have a reward for you guys when you obey what I'm telling you to do." Willing obedience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to not obey the command of the Lord, to not do it exactly as God commanded, basically it separates you from receiving the reward. Or think of it this way, it separates you from harvesting what you've sown. Why? Because you didn't sow it lawfully. You're doing all this striving, but if it's not according to as God has commanded, then you're striving unlawfully, and that's like cheating. And you can't win, you can't be crowned, you can't get the victory when you are cheating because you're not doing it lawfully. And so, if I'm talking about, okay, I'm not going to tithe, I don't, whatever reason you don't believe in that. Well, there's a crown that comes to those that tithe. There's a reward that comes to those that tithe. So if you don't tithe, you're literally basically foregoing yourself from receiving the reward. And so, in the absence of that reward, I'll say this way, in the absence of that blessing, because of your disobedience, that only brings one other thing. Because there's no in between in this world. You can't have, there's nothing in between light and darkness. There's nothing in between righteousness and unrighteousness. That's why Jesus says what he says about people being lukewarm. And there's nothing in between blessing and curse. If you, in order to be blessed, it starts with obeying God. And so if you don't obey God, well, you can't be blessed. And that only leaves room for you to receive one other thing. And that other thing is a curse, and the curse comes from disobeying God. And so, if there's a blessing that's supposed to be present from tithing, if you don't tithe, the presence of that blessing will be absent. And so, in that space, only leaves room for one thing, and that one thing will surely come, and it's the curse on your finances. And so, you have to understand that because there are different ways to give. There are different commandments on those giving, and there's different rewards for each type of giving as well. And so if you don't tithe, you're going to miss the reward for tithing. And it's a big reward. God says, I will rebuke the devourer. I mean, we've all probably have been through this, unless you just grew up in a, great church and you just obeyed the entire time you've been alive. Where it's like, my finances keep dwindling away. Everything just keeps happening back to back to back, and it's taking money away from me. And that's the devourer. It's like I just handled this over here, and now this other thing literally pops up right after that, or at the same time as that. That's the devourer. And God says, I will rebuke the devourer for your sake if you would continue to tithe. Otherwise, if God's not rebuking the devourer, well, then you're giving place to the devil, and the devil he doesn't take up much space. In the New Testament, the man with the legion of demons, there was that many demons in one man. They don't need that much room. And so when you give the devil place, that I'm sure the whole phrase of give an inch, take a mile, it comes from compromising with God's laws. And so don't compromise. God literally says, don't test me. And then for tithing, he changes it and says, test me on this. Mm-hmm. So imagine how important, how serious God is about the tithe. So picking back up, I think we read verse 23. Anyway, only the Levites shall perform the service of the tent of meeting, and they shall bear their own guilt. It shall be a permanent statute throughout your generations, and among the sons of Israel they shall have no inheritance. Check it out.
Dang.
For the tithe of the sons of Israel, which they offer as an offering to the Lord, I have given to the Levites as an inheritance. Therefore I have said concerning them, they shall have no inheritance among the sons of Israel. Why? Because their portion is the best of the best. What goes to the Lord. Part of what goes to the Lord, I'll say it that way. It says, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Moreover, you shall speak to the Levites and say to them, when you take from the sons of Israel the tithe which I have have given you from them for your inheritance, then you shall present an offering from the tithe to the Lord, and a tithe of the tithe. So check that out. That's good as well. So I'm not. I guess I'll go ahead and say it. Yeah. Literally, it's self-explanatory. So basically, they're getting paid for their service to the Lord with what people are giving to the Lord. And so God is saying, even with this payment, still tithe off of it. So churches should tithe. Ministers should tithe off the money that's coming in. Evangelists tithe off the money that's coming in. And so there's nothing else to say there. God is saying it right here, tithe off of the tithe. So if you're getting paid, if your living is coming from doing the service of the church, then off of that money, even if it was a tithe, you should tithe off of the tithe. So verse 27, your offering shall be credited to you like the grain from the threshing floor, or the full produce from the wine vat. So you shall also present an offering to the Lord from all your tithes, which you receive from the sons of Israel, and from it you shall give the Lord's offering to Aaron the priest. Out of all your gifts you shall present every offering due to the Lord, from all the best of them, the sacred part of them. You shall say to them, when you have offered from it the best of it, then the rest shall be credited to the Levites, like the product of the threshing floor, and like the product of the wine vat. You may eat it anywhere, you and your household, for it is your compensation in return for your service in the tent of meeting. And you will bring on yourselves no sin by reason of it when you have offered the best of it. But you shall not profane the sacred things, or the sacred gifts of the sons of Israel, so that you do not die. Look at that. And that's why God removes people that take this position for granted. You see it every year. There's some man of God, woman of God, whatever, some church or whatever it is, somebody in ministry, somebody that's in an office that they're not remaining clean. They're forsaking the service of the temple, so to speak, right? And so, well, God removes them in one way or another. And that is to be because they're profaning this, basically, such a high honor. Your portion is a part of what goes to the Lord. And for you to forsake that is very disrespectful. But God takes care of those people. Nevertheless, even if there are those people that obviously abuse it, that's what people think about. That's why people have all these qualms when it comes to giving. Well, you got to understand, well, God will take care of them, but that doesn't change God's word. That this is what he expects of the people. And I love saying the expectation of the righteous will be established, shall not be cut off, the Bible says. And so we got to think about it. Well, what about God's expectation? If God expects you to tithe, which he does, then you should tithe. If you don't like where you're tithing, well, then ask Lord to show you a place to move to so that you can tithe there. So there's more to it than that, but go get Pastor John Shuttlesworth's book and watch videos on YouTube, specifically my videos, but also his and any other people whose life represents the reward of God, to learn more about what happens from your giving. So picking up in chapter 19, then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, this is the statute, ordinance of the red. Okay. Oh, this is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded, saying, speak to the sons of Israel that they bring you an unblemished red cow, heifer, or is it heifer? But that sounds German.
It's a heifer.
Yeah. They're Jewish, not German. In which there is no defect, and on which a yoke has never been mounted. And you shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and it shall be brought outside the camp and be slaughtered in his presence. And Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his fingers and sprinkle some of the blood toward the front of the tent of meeting 7 times. Then the heifer shall be burned in his sight, its hide, flesh, and blood with its refuse shall be burned, and all the priests shall take cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet material, and throw it in the midst of the burning heifer. The priest shall then wash his clothes and bathe his body in the water, and afterward come into the camp. But the priest will be unclean until evening. The one who burns the heifer shall also wash his clothes in water and bathe his body, and he will be unclean until evening. Now a man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and put them outside the camp in a clean place, and the congregation of the sons of Israel shall keep them for water to remove impurity. It is purification from sin. It says, and the one who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening, and it shall be a permanent statute for the sons of Israel and for the stranger who resides among them. Excuse me. The one who touches the dead body of any person will also be unclean for 7 days. That one shall purify himself with water on the third day and on the seventh, and then he will be clean. But he does not. But if he doesn't purify himself on the third day and on the seventh, he will not be clean. Simple as that. Anyone who touches a dead body, the body of the person who has died, or does not purify himself, defiles the tabernacle of the Lord. And that person shall be cut off from Israel, since the water for impurity was not sprinkled on him. He will be unclean. His uncleanness is still on him. This is a law when a person dies in a tent. Everyone who comes into the tent and everyone who is in the tent will be unclean for 7 days. And every open container that has no cover tied down on it will be unclean. Also, anyone who is in the open field who touches in the open field. Also, anyone who in the open field touches one who has been killed with a sword, or one who has died naturally, or touches a human bone or grave will be unclean for 7 days. It says, then for the unclean person they shall take some of the ashes of the burnt purification from the sin and running water shall be added to them in a container. Okay, next chapter. Chapter 20, verse 1. Then the sons of Israel, the whole congregation, came to the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people stayed at Kadesh. Now Miriam died there and was buried there. There was no water for the congregation, and they assembled against Moses and Aaron. Here we go. Then the people argued with Moses and spoke, saying, if only we had perished when our brothers perished before the Lord. Why then have you brought the Lord's assembly into this wilderness for us and our livestock to die here? Why do you make us come up from Egypt to bring us into this wretched place? It is not a place of grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, nor is there water to drink. Then Moses and Aaron came in from the presence of the assembly to the entrance of the tent of meeting and fell on their faces. And the glory of the Lord appeared to them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the staff, and you and your brother Aaron assemble the congregation and speak to the rock before their eyes. So take your staff, you and Aaron go, assemble the congregation, and speak to the rock before their eyes, that it shall yield its water. So you shall bring the water for them out of the rock, and have the congregation and their livestock drink. That's what God said. So Moses took the staff from before the Lord, just as he had commanded him. And Moses and Aaron summoned the assembly in front of the rock. And he said to them, listen now, you rebels. Shall we bring water for you out of this rock? Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with his staff. And water came out abundantly. And the congregation and their livestock drank. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, since you did not trust in me to treat me as holy in the sight of the sons of Israel, for that reason you shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. Those were called the waters of Meribah, because the sons of Israel argued with the Lord, and he proved himself holy among them. It says, from Kadesh, Moses then sent messengers to the king of Edom to say, this is what your brother Israel has said. Edom are the offsprings of Esau. You shall know all the hardship. Okay, let me stop here. So check that out. God tells Moses and Aaron, take the staff, yes, but speak to the rock. So we come to find out they actually just hit the rock twice, but the water still comes out. And so here you see, right? God will still move in spite of. And so you see some people who are doing things in disobedience to God, or they do things that are not completely to the will of God, and God still moves in spite of. But look at the outcome for Moses and Aaron, because they acted still in slight disobedience, which is still disobedience, right? It says, now you and Aaron will not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. So that's very dire. They're not going to the promised land now. So, picking up in verse 14. From Kadesh, Moses then sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, This is what your brother Israel has said. You know all the hardship that has overtaken us, that our fathers went down to Egypt, and we stayed in Egypt a long time. And the Egyptians treated us and our fathers badly. But when we cried out to the Lord, he heard our voice and sent an angel and brought us out from Egypt. Now behold, we are at Kadesh, a town on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your land. We will not pass through field or vineyard. We will not even drink water from a well. We will go along the king's road, not turning to the left or right until we pass through your territory. Edom, however, said to him, You shall not pass through us, or I will come out with a sword against you. Again, the sons of Israel said to him, We will go up by the road, and if I and my livestock do drink any of your water, then I will pay its price. Let me only pass through on my feet, nothing more. But he said, You shall not pass through. And Edom came out against him with a heavy force and a strong hand. So Edom refused to allow Israel to pass through his territory. Then Israel turned away from him. Now when they set out from Kadesh, the sons of Israel, the whole congregation, came to the Mount Hor. Just check that out. From the contentions between Jacob and Esau, their descendants are still contending with each other to that day. So even though they're related. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron at Mount Hor by the border of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron will be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter the land which I have given to the sons of Israel, because you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah. Take Aaron and his son Eleazar and bring them up to Mount Hor. Then strip Aaron of his garments and put them on his son Eleazar. So Aaron will be gathered to his people and will die there. So Moses did just as the Lord had commanded, and they went up to Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. And after Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them on his son Eleazar, Aaron died there on the mountaintop. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. When all the congregation saw that Aaron had died, the whole house of Israel wept for 30 days. When the Canaanite, the king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that Israel was coming by the way of Atharim, he fought against Israel and took some of them captive. So Israel made a vow to the Lord and said, If you will indeed hand over this people to me, then I will utterly destroy their cities. The Lord heard the voice of Israel and turned over the Canaanites. Then they utterly destroyed them and their cities, and the place was named Hormah. Then they set out from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom, and the people became impatient because of the journey. So the people spoke against God and Moses. Why have you brought us up from Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and we are disgusted with this miserable food. Oh. It says here that they're talking about the manna. You know, the bread from heaven. It says they're disgusted with it now. So, complaining is just breeding a heart of ungratefulness, ingratitude. Then the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, so that many people of Israel died. So the people came to Moses and said, We have sinned because we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Intercede with the Lord that he will remove the serpents from us. And Moses interceded for the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, Make a fiery serpent and put it on a flagpole. Okay. And it shall come about that everyone who is bitten and looks at it will live. So Moses made a bronze serpent and put it on a flagpole. And it came about that if a serpent bit someone and he looked at the bronze serpent, he lived. Just one look. What do you think the bronze serpent on the pole is symbolic of? You've seen it before. It's a medical symbol.
Oh.
Yep. Even this is from the Bible. What do you think it's symbolic of, though?
Satan? Like the devil? The
But it says when
serpent?
they looked at it,
Oh.
they got healed.
I don't know. Jesus.
It's on a pole, right?
Yeah.
It's like Jesus
Oh,
on
the
the cross.
sin.
Yes. This
Whoa.
is this is prophetically, or this is foreshadowing Jesus dying as sin on the cross.
What? Wait, I need to send that to my brother. I bet you he doesn't even know that.
Hmm. Yeah, go ahead and do that. Are you gonna do that now?
I'll just take a screenshot of it.
Okay.
Wow.
Or maybe tell
He's
them to
literally a paramedic.
read.
No.
Okay.
What? Read what?
Nothing.
Okay.
So, where we are now. Verse 10. Now the sons of Israel moved out and camped in Oboth. Then they journeyed from Oboth and camped at Liabarim in the wilderness, which is opposite of Moab to the east. Remember Moab?
I remember the word.
It it came about after what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, and then Lot and his daughters. Yeah. It says, verse 12. From there they set out and camped in Wadi Zered. It's kind of a cool name. Wadi Sered. From there, they journeyed and camped on the other side of Arnon, which is in the wilderness that comes out of the border of the Amorites. For the Arnon is the border of what? Okay, but yes, they're in a specific spot around Moab and the Amorites. Yes, for that reason, it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord, Waheb in Suppah, and the wadis of the Arnon, and the slope of the wadis that extends to the site of Ar and leans to the border of Moab. From there they continued to Beer, that is the well where the Lord said to Moses, assemble the people that I may give them water. Isn't that crazy? Uh, then Israel sang this song, spring up, O well, sing to it. The well which the leaders dug, which the nobles of the people hollowed out with the scepter and with their staffs. And from the wilderness they continued to Matana, and from Matana to Nahaliel. What does Nahaliel mean?
21:19.
Torrents of God. Okay, excuse me. So then from Nahaliel they went to Bamoth, and then from Bamoth to to the valley that is in the land of Moab, at the top of Pisgah, which overlooks the desert. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, saying, let me pass through your land. We will not turn, basically the same thing he said to Edom. But Sihon would not permit Israel to pass through his border. Instead, Sihon gathered all his people and went out against Israel in the wilderness and came to Jahaz and fought against Israel there. Then Israel struck him with the edge of the sword and took possession of his land from the Arnon to the Jabbok, as far as the sons of Ammon, for the border of the sons of Ammon was Jazer. Israel took all these cities, and Israel lived in all the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon and in all her villages. For Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab, and had taken all his land out of his hand, as far as the Arnon. For that reason, those who use Proverbs say, come to Heshbon, let it be built, so let the city of Sihon be established. For a fire spread from Heshbon, a flame from the town of Sihon, and it devoured Ar of Moab, the dominant heights of the Arnon. Woe to you, Moab! You are destroyed, people of Chemosh. He has given his sons as fugitives and his daughters into captivity to an Amorite king, Sihon. But we have shot them down with arrows. Heshbon is destroyed as far as Dibon. Then we have laid waste as far as Napa, which reaches Medeba. So Israel lived in the land of the Amorites. Now Moses sent men to spy out Jazer, and they captured its villages and dispossessed the Amorites who were there. Yeah, that's what it says. Then they turned and went, lost my spot. went the way of Bashan, and Og the king of Bashan went out against them with all his people for the battle of Edrei. But the Lord said to Moses, do not fear him, for I have handed him over to you, and all his people and his land, and you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. So they killed him and his sons and all his people until there was no survivor left, and they took the possessions of his land. Then the sons of Israel journeyed on and camped in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan opposite Jericho. Now Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. So Moab was in great fear because of the people, for they were numerous, and Moab was in dread of the sons of Israel. Moab said to the elders of Midian, now this horde will eat up all that is around us, as the ox eats up the grass of the field. And Balak the son of Zippor was king of Moab at the time. So he sent messengers to Balaam the son of Beor at Pethor, which is near the Euphrates River, in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, behold, a people come out of Egypt. Behold, they have covered the surface of the land, and they are living opposite me. Now therefore, please come, curse this people for me, since they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I will be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and whom you curse is cursed. So check it out. The king of Moab has heard about what Israel has done to the Amorites. And now that Israel is very close to him, and he is scared. So he's sending word to this man who he knows that if this guy blesses people, they will be blessed. And if this guy curses people, they will be cursed. So he's hoping that this guy will come and curse Israel for his sake, so that the king of Moab can go out and defeat Israel, because he's scared that they're going to come and take over his territories. So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian left with the fees for divination in their hands, and they came to Balaam and repeated Balak's word to him. So Balak is the king, and Balaam is the guy that does the divination. And he said to them, spend the night here, and I will bring word back to you, just as the Lord may speak to me. And the leaders of Moab stayed with Balaam. Then God came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? Balaam said to God, Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent word for me. Behold, there is a people who came out of Egypt. They have covered the surface of the land. Now they come, curse them for me. Perhaps I will be able to fight against them and drive them out. But God said to Balaam, do not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. Check that out. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. So Balaam got up in the morning and said to Balak's representatives, go back to your land, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you. Seems like an honorable person so far. Verse 14 says, and the representatives from Moab got up and went back to Balak, their king, and said, Balaam refused to come with us. Then Balak sent representatives again, more numerous, more distinguished men than the previous. They came to Balaam and said to him, this is what Balak the son of Zippor says. I beg you, let nothing keep you from coming to me, for I will indeed honor you richly, and I will do whatever you tell me. Please come then, curse these people for me. But Balaam replied to the servant of Balak, even if Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot do anything, either small or great, contrary to the command of the Lord my God. Now please you also stay here tonight, and I will find out what else the Lord will say to me. And God came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise and go with them, but you shall do only the thing that I tell you. Look at that. Do only the thing that I tell you. So whoever this Balaam guy is, well, he considers God to be his God. And he says, I can't do anything against the Lord. But now God's telling him, okay, go with these people, but just do what I tell you. Mm-hmm. And so he goes in the morning, saddled his donkey, he went with the leaders. Verse 22, but God was angry that he was going, and the angel of the Lord took his stand in the road as an adversary against him. Now he was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn in his hand, the donkey turned off from the road and went into the field. And Balaam struck the donkey to guide her back to the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path of the vineyards, with a stone wall on the side and on that side. So it's like a tunnel. Then the donkey saw the angel of the Lord. She pressed herself against the wall and pressed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. Then the angel of the Lord went farther and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn to the left or to the right. Then the donkey saw the angel of the Lord. She lay down under Balaam. So Balaam was angry and struck the donkey with his staff. Then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey. And she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times?" The donkey spoke.
A real life donkey from Shrek.
That's
It was
exactly what
true.
Shrek is inspired by. Okay, anyway. And Balaam said to the donkey, "It is because you have made a mockery of me. If only there had been a sword in my hand, for I would have killed you by now." But the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your donkey on which you have ridden all your life to this day? Have I ever been in the habit of doing such a thing to you?" And he said, "No." Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed all the way to the ground. Then the angel of the Lord said to him, "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out as an adversary because your way was reckless and contrary to me." So look at that. Doing things contrary to the Lord makes you an adversary to him. But the donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If she had not turned away from me, I certainly would have killed you just now and let her live. So Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing in the way against me. Now then, if it is displeasing to you, I will turn back." But the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the man, but you shall speak only the word that I tell you." So Balaam went along with the representatives of Balak. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him in the city of Moab, which is on the Arnon border, at the extreme end of the border. Then Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not urgently send word to you to call for you? Why do you not come to me? Am I unable to honor you?" So Balaam said to the king, "Behold, I have come to you now. Am I really able to speak anything? The word that God puts in my mouth, that only shall I speak." And Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kiriath Huzoth. Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep, and sent to Balaam and the leaders who were with him. Then it came about in the morning that Balak took Balaam and brought him up to the high places of Baal, and he saw from there a portion of the people. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Build 7 altars for me here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here." So what has happened now is the divination guy, who is aware of God and has just spoken to the angel of the Lord. He's gone with the king, but he's gone to the king, but he's gone under the order of God. And God said, "Only do what I tell you to do." And so it's interesting here because the first thing that he says to the king after they basically get together is, "Help me build altars." And they're about to make sacrifices on these altars. So Balak did just as Balaam had spoken. The king did just as the divination guy had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered up a bull and a ram on each altar. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Stand beside your burnt offering, and I will go. Perhaps the Lord will come to me, and whatever he shows me, I will tell you." So he went to a bare hill. And I think it's just funny because the offerings were unto the Lord. For Balaam was just going to see, will God come to me? So let's offer sacrifices, and he offered them unto the Lord. Now God met with Balaam, and he said to him, "I have set up the 7 altars, and I have offered up a bull and a ram on each altar." Then the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, "Return to Balak, and this is what you shall speak." So he returned to him, and behold, he was standing beside his burnt offering, he and all the leaders of Moab. And he took up his discourse and said, From Aram Balak has brought me, Moab's king from the mountains of the east, saying, Come, declare Jacob cursed for me, and come, curse Israel. Now I am to put a curse on him upon whom God has put. How am I to put a curse upon him whom God has not cursed? And how am I to curse him who the Lord has not cursed? How am I to put a curse upon whom God has not put a curse? How am I to curse him whom the Lord has not cursed? For I see him from the top of the rocks, and I look at him from the hills. Behold, a people that live in isolation and does not consider itself to be among the nations. Pretty deep. Who has counted the dust of Jacob, or the number of the fourth part of Israel? May I die that death of the upright, and may my end be like his. So look at that. The death of the upright is something desirable. Desirable. Then Balak said to Balaam, so the king says to Mr. Soothsayer, what have you done to me? I took you to put a curse on my enemies, but behold, you have actually blessed them. He replied, must I not be careful to speak what the Lord puts in my mouth? Then Balak said to him, please come with me to another place from where you see them, although you will only see the extreme end of them and will not see all of them, and put a curse on them for me there. So he took him to the field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and he built 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram on each. Then he said to Balak, stand here beside your burnt offering, by myself meet Lord over there. Then the Lord met Balaam and put a word in him and said, return to the king, and this is what you shall speak. So he came to him, and behold, he was standing beside his burnt offering, and the leaders of Moab were there too. And Balak said to him, what has the Lord spoken? Then he took up his discourse and said, arise, Balak, and hear. Listen to me, son of Zippor. God is not a man that he would lie, nor a son of man that he would change his mind. Has he said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, and will he not make it good? Behold, I have received a command to bless. When he has blessed, I cannot revoke it. So look at this. When God has blessed somebody, you can't revoke it. Nothing, well, we'll find out. But there's no other power that can revoke the blessing of the Lord. So no curse can come upon someone who God has blessed, because a curse is the opposite of a blessing. So to be cursed would mean that the blessing has been revoked. So how if God is for you, God has blessed you, is it that a curse has come upon you? Well, there's an answer to that. Simply put, it's your own disobedience. But if someone was even building, demonic altars against you, well, no curse can come and overtake you if God is for you and has blessed you, because to be cursed is to have the blessing revoked. And so 21 says, he has not looked at misfortune in Jacob. So there's no iniquity in Israel. And we find out that, I think Solomon writes this, but he says it very poetically, that the curse shall not come without a cause. So you can't curse somebody for no reason. And so what is the cause of the curse? Well, it's disobedience to God. Well, what can you sum up disobedience to God as? 3-letter word. Sin. Come on, you got to speak. People want to hear you too. And so sin is what brings the curse. Or I'll say it this way. Sin is what opens the door for the curse. And so when it says he has not looked at misfortune in Jacob, I like the translation that says he's observed no iniquity in Israel. There's no sin here. There's no reason for them to be cursed right now. They've done nothing to allow for the curse in this present time. They're pleasing to the Lord as they are right now. And God is with them. God has blessed them. So there's no revoking that blessing by placing a curse. It says, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. The Lord, his God, is with him, and the joyful shout of a king is among them. God brings them out of Egypt. He is for them like the horns of a wild ox. You know what the horns of a wild ox do? They're a weapon. So God is for them like a offensive weapon. I guess you can even say it's a defensive weapon too, because it's their protection and it's the way they attack. For there is no magic, and the horns of a wild ox get freaking huge. Because there's nobody to, cut them down. When we see cows, well, bulls are male cows. So, they should have horns. But the thing is, sometimes when you see them in like on the field, they are missing their horn because they cut them off when they're domesticated. Because you don't want to accidentally end up skewered by your own cow.
I thought bulls were like completely different animals. Sorry, I didn't know that.
There are many types. There are many types. Look at this 23. I like how this is worded. For there is no magic curse against Jacob, nor is there any divination against Israel. Why? Because God is for them and he fights for them. For you to be cursed and God is on your side would mean that the curse got past the Lord. So if you are dealing with the curse, that would mean God is not for you. But you can get God for you. So it says, at the proper time it shall be said to Jacob and to Israel what God has done. Behold, a people rises like a lioness, and like a lion it raises itself. It will not lie down until it devours the prey and drinks the blood of those slain. Then Balak said to Balaam, do not curse them at all, nor bless them at all. But Balaam replied to Balak, did I not tell you, whatever the Lord speaks, I must do? Then Balak said to Balaam, please come, I will take you to another place. Perhaps it will be agreeable with God that you curse them for me there. This guy's persistent. So Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, which overlooks the desert. And Balaam said to Balak, build 7 altars, offer bulls, rams on each. Balak did just as Balaam had said, and he offered up a bull and a ram on each. Then Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel. He did not go as the other times to seek omens. Rather, he turned his attention toward the wilderness. And Balaam raised his eyes and saw Israel camping tribe by tribe, and the Spirit of God came upon him. Then he took up his discourse and said, the declaration of Balaam the son of Beor, and the declaration of the man whose eye is opened, the declaration of him who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down yet having his eyes uncovered. How pleasant are your tents, Jacob, your dwelling places, Israel. Like valleys that stretch out, like gardens beside a river, like aloe plants by the Lord, or like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the waters. Water will flow from his buckets, and his seed will be by many waters. And his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brings him out of Egypt. He is for him like the horns of a wild ox. He will devour the nations who are his adversaries, and will crush their bones, and smash them with his arrows. He crouches, he lies down like a lion, and like a lioness who dares to rouse him. Blessed is everyone who blesses you, and cursed is everyone who curses you. Then Balak's anger burned against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. And Balak said to Balaam, I called you to curse my enemies, but behold, you have persisted in blessing them these 3 times. So flee to your place now. I said I will honor you greatly, but behold, the Lord has held you back from honor. And Balaam said to Balak, did I not in fact tell your messengers whom you had sent to me, saying, if Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot do anything contrary to the command of the Lord, either good or bad, of my own accord. What the Lord speaks, I will speak. So now, behold, so this is basically nothing more, nothing less. Nothing for, nothing against. I can only, whatever God says, that's all I can say. So now, behold, I am going to my people. Come, and I will advise you what this people will do to your people in the days to come. Then he took up his discourse and said, the declaration of Balaam the son of Beor, and the declaration of the man whose eye is open, the declaration of him who hears the words of God and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty falling down yet having his eyes uncovered. I see him, but not now. I look at him, but not near. A star shall appear from Jacob, a scepter shall rise from Israel, and shall smash the forehead of Moab, and overcome all the sons of Sheth. And Edom shall be a possession. Seir, its enemies, will also be a possession, while Israel performs valiantly. One from Jacob shall rule, and will eliminate the survivors from the city. And he looked at Amalek, and took up his discourse, and said, Amalek was the first nations, but his end shall be destruction. And he looked at the Kenite, and took up his discourse, and said, Your dwelling place is enduring, and your nest is set in the cliff. Nevertheless, Cain will suffer devastation. How long will Ashur keep you captive? Then he took up his discourse and said, Oh, who can live unless God has ordained it? But ships shall come from the coast of Kittim, and they shall oppress Asher and oppress Eber. So they also will come to destruction. Then Balaam arose, and he departed and returned to his place, and Balak went on his way. So look at that. When Israel's enemies in secret were plotting to curse them, God just used that to bring them a blessing 3 times over. And then not only that, it brought a curse to their enemies in the land. Well,
Pretty cool. Sorry.
you got something to say?
No. Just said pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. And it's just knowing that, right? That's God rebuking the devourer in a sense there. Mm-hmm. Here it is in this place that's unknown to me. People are plotting my demise. But because God is for me, he used that to bring about further blessing to me. Mm-hmm. So I don't even have to watch my back because God is my rear reward. That's what that means. While Israel remained in Shittim, that's what it says, the people began to commit infidelity with the daughters of Moab. For they invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel got invited to the cool high school party that all the popular kids were at, and they decided to go. And they did what the popular kids did. So Israel became followers of Baal Peor, and the Lord was angry with Israel. So Baal is like the Lord, right? But in context, you're talking about their God. So the God of the people of this place called Peor, Israel ended up being goofy with them. Why? Because it says the daughters of Moab. So all the, anyway, whores. And the Lord said to Moses, take all the leaders of the people and execute them in broad daylight before the Lord, so that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel. So Moses said to the judges of Israel, each of you kill his men who have become followers of Baal Peor. Then behold, one of the sons of Israel came and brought to his relatives a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, while they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. When Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose up from the midst of the congregation and took his spear in his hand and went after the man of Israel into the inner room of the tent and pierced both of them. Then the man of Israel and the woman through the abdomen. Sheesh. So the plague on the sons of Israel was brought to a halt. But those who died from the plague were 24,000 in number. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has averted my wrath from the sons of Israel, in that he was jealous with my jealousy among them, so that I did not destroy the sons of Israel in my jealousy. Therefore say, behold, I am giving him my covenant of peace, and it shall be for him and for his descendants after him, a covenant of a permanent priesthood, because he was jealous for his God and made atonement for the sons of Israel. Now the name of the dead man of Israel who was killed with the Midianite woman was Zimri, the son of Salu, a leader of a father's household among the Simeonites. And the name of the Midianite woman who was killed was Cosbi.
That's a cool name.
Bill Cosby?
Oh, I never heard of that.
Never heard of Bill Cosby?
That is the first time I've ever seen that word. You know, I don't know famous people.
Well, he's not famous for a good reason anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's a man's name. What does Cosby mean?
Let's see. Oh, we're flying through these.
I don't think so.
Really? I thought we got through a lot already.
Well, I've said a lot already. It's really what happened.
Boom.
My life. Sheesh. Dang, that sucks. You know what happened to Bill Cosby?
Nope.
Bro. So he was a TV show person. And all of a sudden, all these women came out of nowhere with allegations that he sexually assaulted them.
Dang.
And guess what his last name means?
My
lies. If I don't know prophetic.
Ah.
Damn, I'm gonna just stop there. That's crazy. What if somebody in court would just came up to him and be like, did a search on your name. And you know what I found out? Cosby actually means my lie.
Dang, why would they name him that?
But people obviously didn't know.
I guess it's not spelled the same way either.
No, but we're also digging really deep into it. But it's just very coincidental that happens to be his name. And, anyway. But she was a daughter of somebody named Zer, who was head of the people of the father's household in Midian. That's interesting because the priest of Midian was Moses' father-in-law, Jethro Reuel.
So many names.
Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Be hostile to the Midianites and attack them, for they have been hostile to you with their tricks, with which they have deceived you in the matter of Peor and in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of the leader of Midian, their sister who was killed on the day of the plague because of Peor." Then it came about after the plague that the Lord spoke to Moses and to Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saying, "Take a census of all the congregation of the sons of Israel from 20 years up and old and upward." Okay, so by their fathers' households, whoever is able to go to war in Israel. So Moses and Eleazar the priest spoke with them in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho, saying, "Take a census of the people from 20 years old and upward, as the Lord had commanded Moses." Now the sons of Israel who came out of the land of Egypt were as follows. Yes, all of them. Yep. To 22. Yep. Okay. Reading. Okay. So these are all the men who are 20 and up. This is some large numbers. We're almost done. Dang.
So who wrote Numbers?
Moses.
So you're telling me that the Lord told him all these names and he wrote them down? Or he just knew?
Well, obviously, it was inspired by the Holy Ghost.
That's crazy.
Let me look something up. How do we know Moses, wrote the first 5 books? Okay, we learn later. In the Bible are references to the Pentateuch being the book of Moses. Pentateuch being in the first 5. Penta being 5, right? So it's referring to the first 5 books as the books of Moses in Ezra and Nehemiah. And it says Jesus also referenced Moses as the author of some portions, but obviously talking about parts of the law. Okay, I was hoping there's going to be like a definitive verse, but we'll have to find out when we read Ezra and Nehemiah. Okay. So, yes, many men wish death upon me. Okay, no. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. These are, wait, let me go up. Verse 52. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Among these the land shall be divided as an inheritance according to the number of names. To a larger group you shall increase their inheritance, and to a smaller group you shall decrease their inheritance. Each shall be given their inheritance corresponding to the total of those who were numbered of them. But the land shall be divided by lot. They shall receive their inheritance according to the names of the tribes of their fathers, corresponding to the selection by lots. Their inheritance shall be divided between the larger and the smaller groups. These are those who are numbered of the Levites according to their families." Okay, those who were numbered of them were 23,000, every male from a month old and upward, for there were not numbered among the sons of Israel, since no inheritance was given to them among the sons of Israel. These are the ones, so they couldn't own any land. These are the ones who were numbered by Moses and Eleazar the priest, who numbered the sons of Israel in the plains of Moab by Jordan at Jericho. But among these, there was not a man of those who were numbered by Moses and Aaron the priest, so they didn't miss anybody, who numbered the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Sinai. For the Lord has said of them, they shall certainly die in the wilderness, and not a man was left of them except Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. Because remember, after what happened with the 10 spies, I said everyone above 20 is dying in the wilderness. So the daughters of Zelophehad. I like that, Zelophehad. Okay, because I had so much trouble, let's look up, what does that name mean? Zelophehad. It's a man.
Firstborn.
Whoa.
That's kind of cool.
That's so unimaginative.
It's so interesting.
Man and woman gets married. Whoa, we had a son. Our firstborn. Ah, there we go. Zelophehad it is. The son of Heifer. Terrible name. The son of Gilead, better. The son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph came forward. And these are the names of his daughters. Yes. They stood before Moses and before Eleazar, before the leaders and all the congregation, at the entrance of the tent of meeting, saying, Our father died in the wilderness, yet he was not among the group of those who gathered together against the Lord, in the group of Korah, but he died in his own sin, and he has no sons. Why should the name of our father be withdrawn from among his family, simply because he has no son? Give us property among our father's brothers. So Moses brought their case before the Lord. Then the Lord said to Moses, The daughters of Zelophehad are right about their statements. You shall look at this. So it wasn't that they were wrong, so that they were left out. It's just, well, God gave an inheritance to all the men. Here these daughters are. All right, wait a minute. Well, there should be an inheritance to our family as well, because our family did have a father. He just isn't here anymore. And so when they bring their case before the Lord, well, God's saying, you know what? They're right. They are not like I didn't know that or I was remiss of this. But he was allotting the inheritance to the men who were alive at the time. So even though it seemed as these people got left out, all they need to do is bring their case before the Lord. And God goes and says, they're right. So when it looked like they were about to get left out, all they need to do is bring their case to the Lord. Let that speak to somebody.
You have not because you ask not.
True. So the Lord said to Moses, The daughters of Zelophehad are right about their statements. You shall certainly give them hereditary property among their father's brothers, and you shall transfer the inheritance of their father to them. Further, you shall speak to the sons of Israel, saying, If a man dies and has no son, then you shall transfer his inheritance to his daughter. And if he has no daughter, you shall give his inheritance to his brothers. If he has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to the father's brothers. And if his father has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to his nearest relative in his own family, and he shall take possession of it. It shall be a statutory ordinance to the sons of Israel, just as the Lord has commanded Moses. And the Lord said to Moses, Go up to this mountain of Abiram and see the land which I have given to the sons of Israel. When you have seen it, you too will gather to your people, just as Aaron your brother was. Moses is saying, go up here. Or God's telling Moses, go up here because I'm about to take you up too, son. But look at that. I like, you see here, we just proved it, right? Well, the inheritance goes to the sons. That's why I love how the New Testament refers to everyone who has received Christ as a son. So we know it's not just men that can receive Christ, but a part of that spiritual work is that you're one with him. And so you're, even as in the natural, a woman, you're still a son of God because there's an inheritance for you in this kingdom now because you're one with Christ, the Son of God. And so when it refers to women as sons in the New Testament, or when it refers to the brethren as just simply sons in the New Testament, you got to look a little deeper. And so I think it's either Paul or Peter, but he tells the people, to the men, hey, You need to make sure that your wives are pleased to dwell with you. You need to honor the truth that they are also inheritors of the promise as well. They are heirs as well. And so the women are even considered like sons. And I think David D. Hernandez made this joke. He's the first one I heard it from. He was like, well, if us as men have to be considered the wives of Christ, then y'all need to be okay with being considered sons of God. And I chuckled. So, where did I even leave off? Were you paying attention? 12?
I think so.
Okay. Then the Lord said to Moses, go up to the mountain of Abiram and see the land which I have given to the sons of Israel. Oh, that's nice. So Moses hasn't seen the promised land yet. And because he did a little goofy thing he can't go and lead the people into the promised land either. So he's about to die in the wilderness. But what does God say? I'm still going to show it to you though. You can still look at it, but you can't lead the people there. 13. When you have seen it, you too will be gathered to your people, just as Aaron your brother was. For in the wilderness of Zin, during the strife of the congregation, you rebelled against my command to treat me as holy before their eyes at the water. These are the waters of Meribah of Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. Then Moses spoke to the Lord, saying, May the Lord, the God of the spirits of humanity, appoint a man over the congregation, who will go out and come for them and lead out and bring them in. So look at that. Even though Moses isn't going to be able to go into the promised land, consequently, we have the book of Joshua because of that. Look how he's interceding for the people still. He still wants the people after him to have a just and righteous leader. He's praying that someone fit and well able and someone who will be willing and obedient and humble himself under God will lead the congregation even still. So, speaking of the men, he's saying, who will go out and come in before them and lead them out and bring them in, so that the congregation of the Lord will not be like sheep that have no shepherd. So the Lord said to Moses, take Joshua the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand on him, and have him stand before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and commission him in their sight. So here's where we get the idea that a part of another reason to lay hands on somebody is to commission them. Right here. So you shall put some of your authority on him, so that all the congregation of the sons of Israel will obey him. And I mean, this was already like, you could already read and tell that it would have been Joshua. If you were just reading this like a novel, because Joshua was always there serving Moses. So look how the person that was going to lead the congregation was always there serving Moses.
So the whole point why Moses isn't going to like lead is because he literally hit the rock instead of speaking to it?
Yes, literally disobeyed that one time.
And he can't just like do a sacrifice and be right again?
No, because you know who the rock was symbolic of?
What?
Jesus.
Uh-huh. What?
And so when the rock was struck the first time and water came out, think of it this way. It's a lot of ways to think of it. But you know when they pierced Jesus in the side, it said blood and water came out? Well, that was proof that he was dead when the water came out. There's like some science behind it that when water comes out of a dead body, yada yada, right? That's proof that it's dead. And so when he struck the rock and water came out, that was symbolic of Christ dying. And so you got to be careful, because what these things are symbolic of is very important. Because the rock literally is what we call a Christophany, which was a pre-incarnation of Christ. So Christ, like Christ, ophany. And so it represented Christ. And so when Moses didn't speak to it the second time, but he struck it again, it was as if he was killing Jesus again. And Jesus doesn't die twice. Jesus is not going to die 2 times. So Moses, God still showed mercy. Water still came out. But the thing about it was the Lord wanted to do a new thing. Because everything that's happened up to this point, God was basically proving stuff. Everything that has been happening is also symbolic of things that are to come. That's why we call them types and shadows. They're examples of what is to come. They're prototypes to what will eventually be. And so everything that God has these people doing is for a purpose. it was not to get off topic, right? But imagine what did God wanted to show the people? They came to the same rock. They struck the first time, but the second time Moses was supposed to speak to it. Imagine what was God going to prove to the people in just speaking to the rock this time? Well, we'll never know because Moses hit the rock, and God got upset. I want to show myself holy, set apart, sanctified. But here you go, Moses. So yeah, he had an anger problem. This is the same guy that killed a man back in Egypt and had to flee. But he's still him though. So the Lord said to Moses, take Joshua the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand on him, and have him stand before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and commission him in their sight. And you shall put some of your authority on him, so that all the congregation of the sons of Israel will obey him. Moreover, he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall inquire for him by the judgment of the Urim before the Lord. At this command they shall go out, and at his command they shall come in, both he and all the sons of Israel with him, all the congregation. Then Moses did just as the Lord commanded him. He took Joshua and made him stand before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and he laid his hands on him and commissioned him, just as the Lord had spoken through Moses. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, command the sons of Israel and say to them, you shall be careful to present to me my offering, my food for my offering by fire, of a soothing aroma to me at their appointed time. And you shall lay them this, and you shall say to them, this is the offering by fire which you shall offer to the Lord. Yes, 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 yes. All the offerings, don't forget them. Which is important because there's been a change of authority now. Aaron's dead. Now Moses is about to get decommissioned as well. So they're all at the end of their place. And God is reminding them about the offerings and the Sabbath offerings and the sin offerings and the wave offerings and the stuff. Yes, yes. Very, very important information. Keep the Passover as well. What to offer for the Passover offering. First fruits as well. And grain offerings. Yes. So basically keep the offerings holy, sanctified, unblemished. Amen. Talking about 7 months. We're just still talking about offerings, and I'm just not going to read it, you guys. And for redeeming reasons, because we don't have to offer this stuff anymore, because Jesus is the ultimate offering once and for all. So just look at all they had to go through. All these offerings, all these rules and regulations, but we have Jesus. But it says, as Moses spoke to the sons of Israel in accordance with everything that the Lord had commanded Moses. All right, he's finishing strong. Then Moses spoke to the heads of the tribes of the sons of Israel, saying, this is the word which the Lord has commanded. We pick it up, Numbers 30. If a man makes a vow to the Lord or takes an oath to put himself under a binding obligation, he shall not break his word. He shall act in accordance with everything that comes out of his mouth. And if a woman makes a vow to the Lord and puts herself under a binding obligation in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow and her obligation under which she has put herself, and her father says nothing to her, then all her vows shall remain valid, and every binding obligation under which he has or she has put herself shall remain valid. Sheesh. Look how important vows are. Keeping your word, right, is very important. But if her father expresses disapproval to her on the day he hears of it, none of her vows or her obligations under which she has put herself shall remain valid. And the Lord will forgive her because her father has expressed disapproval to her. And then you see there's even, just an authority for a man of the house over his daughters. However, if she happens to marry while under her vow, or the impulsive statement of her lips by which she has obligated herself, and her husband hears of it and says nothing to her on the day he hears it, then her vows shall remain. And I'm assuming that if he does, and her husband hears of it and says nothing, her vows shall remain valid to the binding obligation she put herself under. But if one day her husband hears and expresses disapproval, then her vow and impulsive statement that she made by her lips, which she has obligated herself by, will be forgiven, and the Lord will forgive her. Yes. Verse 9. But as for the vow of a widow or a divorced woman, every binding obligation under which she has put herself shall remain valid against her. However, if a married woman vowed in her husband's house or put herself under a binding obligation, and her husband hears it but says nothing to her to express disapproval, then it shall remain valid as a binding obligation because she put herself under it. But if her husband actually annuls them on the day he hears them, then no utterance from her lips concerning her vows or obligations that she put herself under shall remain valid. Her husband has annulled them, and the Lord will forgive her. So if you ever promise somebody they'll do something, and you don't want to do it anymore, just let me know. I'll be like, nah, she's not going to do it. And God will forgive you. It says, every vow and every binding oath to humble herself, her husband may confirm it, or her husband may basically make it void. But if her husband says nothing, or if her husband in fact says nothing to her from day to day, then he confirms all her vows or all her binding obligations which are on her. He has confirmed them. That's important. Because there's an honor aspect to it now that the world kind of just even knows. This is an honorable thing, but this right here is just given to it. This was a command of God once upon a time, right? And so if a wife is just going about just making all these plans or whatever, saying she's gonna do this and do that, and she don't say nothing to her husband, and then the day comes where it's like, okay, time for us to go do this. She's like, oh, wait a minute, but I gotta go do this. It's like, dang, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. We got these plans right here, but it's too late. Maybe it's not too late, but I'm just thinking about it. What trouble could come from just like this miscommunication? Because if the husband never says anything about it, well, she's bound to it now. And imagine what crazy stuff people were saying. Because we're going to get to the book of Judges, and a man says some of the crazy thing. He did not have no business in that, but he had to keep it. He had to keep the vow. So let's pick up in 16. These are the statutes which the Lord commanded Moses concerning matters between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter, while she is in her youth, when it comes to the daughter. Okay. Then the Lord spoke to Moses. I like this. Remember what happened with the Midianites, right? Midian is the land that the Moabites were in, and Moab is the kingdom that belongs to the king Balak, who was a guy that tried to get Balaam to curse Israel. Mm-hmm. And so Midian is also the land that the women came from that caused Israel to turn away from God and turn to Baal Peor. And God got upset. So Midian's bad place. It says, then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take vengeance on the Midianites for the sons of Israel. Afterward, you will be gathered to your people. So Moses spoke to the people, saying, arm men from among you for the war, so that they may go against Midian to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian. You shall send 1,000 from each tribe of all the tribes of Israel to war. So there were selected from the thousands of Israel. I mean, it makes sense. It's just weird.
There's a comma.
No, their word part.
Yeah.
I would better say this. So they selected from the thousands of Israel, 1,000 from each tribe, 12,000 armed for war. And Moses sent them 1,000 from each tribe to the war, and Phinehas the son of Eleazar the priest to the war with them, and the holy implements and the trumpets for the alarm in his hand. Because remember, the priest has to blow the trumpet. But they didn't send the high priest. They sent the high priest's son. So they made war against Midian, just as the Lord had commanded Moses, and they killed every male. They killed the kings of Midian along with the rest of those killed, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, the son of Beor, with the sword. And the sons of Israel took captive the women of Midian and their little ones, and they plundered all their cattle and all their flocks and all their property. Then they burned all their cities where they had lived and all their encampments, and they took all the plunder and all the spoils, both of the people and of livestock. They brought the captives and the spoils and the plunder to Moses, to Eleazar the priest, and to the congregation of the sons of Israel, to the camp at the plains of Moab, which were by the Jordan, opposite of Jericho. And Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the leaders of the congregation went out to meet them outside the camp. But Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of the thousands and the commanders of the hundreds who had come from service in the war. Wonder why? And Moses said to them, have you spared all the women? Behold, they caused the sons of Israel through the counsel of Balaam. Dun, dun, dun. So check that out. Remember, Balak was all up in Balaam's face, like, just curse him for me, curse him for me. And God made him bless Israel 3 times. But remember, Balaam told the king, just come away with me and I'll give you counsel of the things that are to come from Israel. But in him giving the king counsel, we find out that the women came from Midian into the camp of Israel because Balaam told King Balak to do it. So it says, the women caused the sons of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to be unfaithful to the Lord in the matter of Peor, their God, so that the plague took place among the congregation of the Lord. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who was known a man intimately. However, all the girls who have not known a man intimately, keep alive for yourselves. As for you, camp outside the camp for 7 days. Whoever has killed a person, whoever has touched anyone killed, purify yourselves, you and your captives, on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. And you shall purify for yourselves every garment, every article of leather, every work of goat's hair, and every article of wood. And Eleazar the priest said to the men of war who had gone to battle, this is the statute of the law which the Lord has commanded Moses. Only the gold and the silver, the bronze, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that can withstand the fire, you shall pass through the fire, and it will be clean. Only it shall be purified with water for impurity. But whatever cannot withstand the fire, you shall pass through the water. You shall wash your clothes on the 7th day, and you will be clean, and afterward you may enter the camp. So check it out. Moses says, kill all the little boys, kill all the women that aren't virgins, and then wash all the goods that you guys got, or put it through the fire so that it could be pure. Stuff that they took from this unrighteous place. Any thoughts? Does it seem righteous to you?
What?
Does it seem righteous to you?
I'm gonna need you to retell me what happened because I was thinking about something while you were reading that part.
Tell us what you were thinking about.
I forgot already.
Was it a dream?
No.
You just wake up from a dream, you forgot it?
No. I do that sometimes. Like literally earlier when you were reading a part, I was thinking about the thing you told me, the serpent on the cross. I was like, whoa. And I'm like, you're reading, I'm gotta pay attention.
You just gotta go back and watch it.
Yeah. Withstand the fire, you shall pass through the fire, and I'll be clean.
Verse 25. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, you and Eleazar the priest and the heads of the father's household of the congregation take account of the spoils that were captured, both of the people and of the livestock, and divide the spoils between the warriors who went to battle and all the congregation. Also collect a tribute tax for the Lord from the men of war who went to battle, 1 in 500 of the persons of the cattle, donkeys, of the sheep, and take it from their half and give it to Eleazar the priest as an offering to the Lord. So check that out. God's telling him, give me an offering from everything that you guys got, but put it in the hands of the priest. So how did they give the offering to the Lord? Well, they gave it to the priest. It says, and for the sons of, it's just nothing new. Well, I'm just thinking of stupid arguments people have about giving, and it's like you never read the Bible in its entirety. You went and looked at one scripture, or you listened to one person that preached on one scripture out of context, and now you're living in a way that's bringing a curse on your life because you ignorantly decided to follow someone whose life looks nothing like no blessing or promises of God, which is also unbiblical. So verse 30, and from the sons of Israel half you shall take one drawn from every 50 of the persons of the cattle, donkeys, sheep, animals, give them to the Levites who perform the duties of the tabernacle to the Lord. Moses and Eleazar the priest did just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Now the spoils that remained from the plunder, which the men of war plundered, was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donks. And of captive people and all the women who had not known a man intimately, in all were 32,000 people. I mean, I can't even imagine like messing around with those numbers. Like, imagine being Eliezer. And it's like maybe somebody had to offer you like one of the women. It's like, what the heck am I supposed to do with you? Because a part of what Eliezer received, and a part of some what the Levites received, and a part of what the people got were those virgin women. Now, it's like they used them as servants, most likely, or if they liked them, they would marry them off. Because this is not people that are allowed to like have sex just all willy nilly. So you can't take it to the context of, oh, they just going to rape these women that they got from the war, because it's not, God wouldn't allow them to do that, because that goes against God's law of not being whores. So it's like now you just have all these people that belong to you. Like, it's just so many people. Like, I can't even imagine like seeing all of that at the time. It's just this massive group of people that just gets even more bigger. More big, I guess that's an accurate way, or grammatical way of saying it. It's a lot. And I was just thinking in Eliezer's case, he's just literally one guy. And people, from everything, he has to take a fifth or 50th of it, I think is what it said. So, yeah, let's skip to 40. And the captive people were 16,000, of whom the Lord's tribute tax was 32. Oh, they took half. Yes. So they gave God half of it. Like, what are they supposed to do with half of it? Maybe it'll tell us. And Moses gave the tribute tax, which was the Lord's offering, to Eleazar the priest, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. I need to put a nail in this table. Look at this, you guys. All right, anyway.
2 screws.
Yeah, 2 screws. And Moses gave the tribute tax, yes. As for the sons of Israel's half, which Moses separated from the men who gone to war, now the congregation's half was this much, yes. Then the officers who were over the thousands of the army, the commanders of the thousands, and the commanders of the hundreds. So even serving God in war brings a reward, right? You get a portion of the spoils. So the commander of the thousand of the commanders of the hundreds approached Moses, and then they said to Moses, your servants have taken a census of the men of war who are under our authority, and no one of us is missing. Look at that. So everyone who went to war came back. And they literally ransacked 5 nations, or 5 kingdoms, because it was 5 kings, right? At least 5. So it says, no one is missing. So we have brought as an offering to the Lord. So, okay, look at this. So everyone had survived the war, and they're grateful. So what did they do? They brought an offering. So express gratitude through offering. To the Lord, which each man found articles of gold, armlets and bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and necklaces to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord. Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold from them, all kinds of crafted articles, all the gold of the offering which they offered up to the Lord from the. So, I don't even have to say anything else about giving offerings. All the gold of the offering which they offered up to the Lord from the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds was 16,750 shekels. The men of war had taken plunder, every man for himself. So Moses and Eleazar the priest took the gold from the commanders of the thousands and of the hundreds and brought it to the tent of meeting as a memorial for the sons of Israel before the Lord. I just thought of something funny, because people will argue and be like, when was the offering ever money? Well, the offering was gold. Obviously it was gold, so give gold then if you don't want to give money. But the Bible does say offering. The offering does become money at one point under specific circumstances back in the day. But we'll get to that in Deuteronomy. So check this out. Now the sons of Reuben and the son. Wait, hold a minute. You guys think we got to end soon? Let me see something. Yes. You guys, we have to bring this to a close. But, okay, we got from Numbers, 17 to 32 in 2 hours? Not bad. Hope you guys are digging the lights. My beautiful light.
You like.
Yeah, amen. So, glory to God.
Oh, okay.
I just disconnected the iPad. I mean, I probably could have waited to do that. But I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't really have
Yeah.
anything to say.